All right, folks, this is the big one. Ole Miss is going to blast Tulane in the college football playoff. We have the answer key before Saturday's test.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran of national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network in the world. That is all because of you. On today's show, we're going to lock in our final picks and prop bets that we kind of are intrigued with for the Ole Miss Rebels as they make their college football playoff debut against the Tulane Green Wave. We'll break down what stands out most in this matchup, spotlight the Ole Miss players you need to keep an eye on, and explain why this game could look completely different than what some expect. But first, we'll tell you right up front why Ole Miss is going to be positioned to win this game against Tulane and what gives the Rebels the edge when it matters most. All of this and more on today's Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Remember, we're free and available on all of the podcast apps and on YouTube, and a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. So this has been an interesting 4-year journey for Locked On Ole Miss. You can look on the YouTube page. The YouTube channel has been active since January 6th, 2022. Since that point, Ole Miss has gone to a Sugar Bowl. They've gone to a Peach Bowl, and they missed the playoffs a year ago, ended up in the Gator Bowl. We talked about the need for Ole Miss to keep banging on the door, and eventually it would come open. And it did come open this year. This year was supposed to be a rebuilding year for Ole Miss. This was supposed to be the step back year. This was honestly probably the year that Lane Kiffin was expecting to go 8-4, 9-3, and then scuttle off to another job after he blamed Ole Miss for the failures of 2024 instead of looking in the mirror, if we're just going to be real about it. But I told everybody, keep banging on the door and eventually it will come open. And it did. This season, Ole Miss went 11-1. They were a 4-2 away from going 12-0 and winning a game in Athens. This Ole Miss team, not necessarily is a national championship favorite, but this Ole Miss team would surprise no one if they actually won it. This is a deep team and something coming into this season nobody expected. When Ole Miss played Tulane on September 20th, about 3 months ago, everybody was worried about an upset in that game. That was right off Talon Green running around on Ole Miss, Arkansas going up and down the field on the Rebels. Everybody's worried about Jake Retzlaff and what could happen. And John Sumrall is a very good football coach. Every one of his teams have gone to championship games with him as the coach. They're going to be well coached. They're going to be good. But nobody knew what to expect, especially with Trinidad Chambliss starting that game. What we saw pretty quick is Ole Miss had a serious advantage on the lines of scrimmage, and they had a serious advantage in the pass game. And when you look at why Ole Miss will win this game, it comes down to this: the advantage on both lines of the scrimmage. It is hard to win a football game when you are that far deficient on the line of scrimmage on both sides. Ole Miss should be able to run the ball. They should be able to stop the run. They should be able to do basically what they need to do. Now, everybody's going to say, well, Tulane ran for 170 yards last meeting. They did. But every time there was a 4th and 1 or a 3rd and 1 and they tried to run the ball, they couldn't get it. They couldn't pick up a yard when they absolutely had to have it. I don't care about explosive runs where Retzlaff had like that 40 or 50-yard run at some point early in the game. I don't care about any of that. I care about, can you do it when you have to do it? And the other side, when Tulane's defense, they actually did a decent job on Kewan Lacey in that game. Ole Miss had like 550 yards of offense, but Lacey had like 60 yards for the game. But that wasn't the Kewan Lacey that he became. this wasn't the offensive line that became. That was not a very good offensive line at that point. They were still figuring things out. This is a different unit. And when you add Trinidad Chambliss and Kewan Lacey, and they do such a good job complementing each other running the football, I think that Ole Miss is in really good shape running the ball, which opens up the play action, which doesn't allow Tulane to protect that secondary at all. And that's how you kind of go from 7 to 28 or something like that. That's how that happens. Now, Tulane does rank near the bottom of college football in passing yards allowed. Now, they're an opportunistic defense. They will turn you over. There's some ball hawks on the field for the Tulane Green Wave. If you can avoid turning the ball over, though, it is pretty good, easy to get space against that secondary. That's happened all year. I mean, UTSA, which started this whole run for Tulane, kind of had their way in the passing game. And Ole Miss, if they can take advantage of it, which they should. Ole Miss is what, a 17.5-point favorite according to FanDuel. The passing game is going to be what separates Ole Miss and Tulane. The run game, the stuff on the line of scrimmage, the playing in a phone booth is going to be the way that Ole Miss wins, but the way Ole Miss separates will be in the passing game. And Trinidad Chambliss and Kewan Lacey, they're just different players than they were in the first meeting. The Tulane game was Trinidad's second start as a quarterback in the FBS level. After the game against Arkansas, there was a lot of unknowns. You don't figure out exactly how you're going to be schemed against. I'm sure John Summerall is going to have some spy-type situations to prevent Trinidad Chambliss from running for 120 yards or something like that. So him and Kewan Lacey and those receivers, and hey, Daquan Wright, he appears to be getting close to full strength again. And if he gets close to full strength, he's an absolute weapon, and probably would have been more of a weapon if he would have been allowed to basically finish the season. So we'll see. Now, the other thing is Trinidad Chambliss. He's 8th in the Heisman Trophy this year, and that was with the previous head coach at Ole Miss not campaigning at all for him. No campaigns for him or Kewan Lacey. None of the players got in a position to have their own accolades because of the selfishness that was going on in the month of October and November. You had a Doak Walker Award finalist that nobody has heard about because it was all about, hey, Lane Kiffin's going to go to Florida or LSU, yada, yada, all of that silly stuff. Now, Tulane puts on the film and they see this like, hey, this is a really good player. He's really good now. And this is what he's doing well. This is how we're going to try to take that away. And that's how the secondary is going to come up. And that's how Ole Miss is going to be able to exploit them pretty well. That is how Ole Miss is going to beat the Tulane Green Wave. They're going to do it on the line of scrimmage, and they're going to separate in the pass game. The defense is going to be fine. None of that has changed. And they basically were really sticky and suffocate at the Tulane Green Wave the first time they played. So I am anticipating a little bit closer of a matchup. I think Tulane's offense is going to be a little bit better this time. It just has to happen if we're going to be real about it. But I do not think they have the horses to beat Ole Miss. And when you look at Trinidad Chambliss now, he's had a really great year. And this is only in 10 games. These are better numbers than Fernando Mendoza had, who won the Heisman. That is how I know that if he would have been campaigned for it all, if he would have been taken care of it all by people that were supposed to be looking out for his best interest instead of looking for other employment, he would have probably been in New York. He might not have won it, but he would have probably been in New York. And he was 218 for 333, 3,016 yards, 18 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Played a great season at Ole Miss. Legendary. And if he wins Saturday, if he wins the game tomorrow, he will instantly become the quarterback that has won the biggest game in the history of Ole Miss. It is hard to fathom for people outside of the Ole Miss fan base what this game means. The people that didn't experience the last 40 or 50 years, they really have no frame of reference to even talk about what's going on. They're just going to look at it with like who you're playing, what's the matchup, all of that. We're going to break out our sports cliches, all of that stuff. None of that matters to Ole Miss fans. Nobody has the journey of the Ole Miss fan except an Ole Miss fan. Nobody knows the highs and lows of going from defeating Notre Dame in Jackson in 1977 to going straight to a Steve Sloan era with John Fourcade and all of that, and all of the struggles incrementally building up to this moment. And Ole Miss is going to win this game because of those 40 years. The players aren't going to feel it. The fans are going to feel it. They're going to be jacked up. They're going to be juiced. And the stadium, everybody is going to let them know exactly what this means to the Ole Miss fan base. I talked about it during the month of November while it was going on, when nobody else was talking about it. Lane Kiffin was robbing these players and the fan base of what should have been a spectacular season. Just completely robbed them. And once you get into that stadium, I think you will see exactly how it ends up. Now, there's a lot of money on the table. There's probably people selling tickets that have them because there's a hefty little bit of profit to be made. But I'm not expecting a lot of green in the stadium. I'm expecting a good contingent, but I'm not expecting a lot of green. So we'll see exactly how it goes and what it looks like. But it's like David Kellum said in that video, you know, for all the people that brought all of the passion for all of the years, this game is for you. There are several players that need to have big days for this game to happen the way that Ole Miss fans want, and we'll break down exactly who they are and why coming up next. The holidays always show up faster than we expect, and if you're still putting together gifts, last-minute decor, or getting your home ready for guests, Wayfair has you covered. Whether you need a quick room refresh, new bedding, or those final seasonal touches, Wayfair makes it easy to get what you need fast. Wayfair is truly your one-stop shop for everything home, with decor, furniture, and kitchen essentials, along with gifts for every style and every budget, all delivered quickly and easily. Their selection is huge, bedding and all of that stuff. I was able to find everything I needed in one place. It's so easy to shop by style. It helps you pick out pieces that actually fit your home instead of guessing. The Wayfair items you order will instantly refresh your space without a big project, and get last-minute hosting essentials, gifts for all your loved ones, and decor to celebrate the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting, by the way. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, the momentum flips after a turnover or a failed fourth down conversion. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up, and you can bet the next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, so can you. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcatcher you're listening to, and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but it helps keep all of this free. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast in the world. You already live your team every day. Now take it up to the next level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Ole Miss with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 per year. Go to lockedonolemiss.supercast.com or check the link down in the show notes to learn more. All right, so this is going to be an absolutely major game for Ole Miss, and they need to handle what is going on. This is going to be a big moment. You don't have the biggest game in the history of the state of Mississippi without there being some strings and pressure and all of that coming on. If it's a close game in the fourth quarter, it's going to get tight in that building. It just is. Ole Miss needs to front run in this game. You don't need to be playing catch up against a G5 team to where the pressure and the tightness can overtake everybody, and that stadium can kind of look the same way it did when Ole Miss played Tennessee Tech in baseball. That's what you're trying to avoid. What you want, get the ball early on, go down, score a touchdown, go up by a couple of scores, and turn this into a coronation, turn this into a celebration, turn this into a giant party. And we all know that Ole Miss has never lost a party. At least that's what the T-shirts say. But when you look at this Ole Miss team, they have the horses to win this game. They should win this game. They're 17.5-point favorites, according to FanDuel. But there are things that at least are going to give people pause going into this game, and that is Pete Golding's first game as the head coach. Lane Kiffin down in Baton Rouge doing whatever he's doing. The assistant coaches that have come up, they have a role. I sure they're going to be fine. It's going to be good, because if they tanked this, they would never get another job anywhere ever again. So they're not going to do that. So anybody that might be worried about that, don't. And the players are good, because Ole Miss has quietly built an excellent roster over the course of the last, 6 years, because it was a trial and error and incremental going up. And Ole Miss's roster, you didn't have Walter Nolan, you didn't have Jackson Dart or Trey Harris or Princely Amamiellan or Chris Paul, all of those guys, Trey Amos on the back end of the defense, which that was a 12-0 roster that Ole Miss went 9-3 with a year ago. I've said that for months at this point. That isn't revisionist history. I said that before the season started. Last year, Ole Miss had a 12-0 roster, and they went 9-3 with it. And I said, Ole Miss is going to take a step back from a year ago, but they're not taking a step back from 9-3, which everybody like to do. You saw all these media great takes of, hey, they're going to go 8-4 or 7-5. I don't know how they could be. They only have 2 starters returning. Last year was a 12-0 team. The NFL draft basically put that on paper for everybody to see. This year, Ole Miss probably did take a step back, but they have a better team if it's not as talented as a year ago. And Ole Miss went 11-1 with that team. If you want to go back to my July predictions, which I do every single July, this is what I thought would happen when that was going on. I had them winning every game except at Georgia and at Oklahoma. And when Ole Miss beat Oklahoma in Norman, this became real. Now, I did not foresee any of the drama that happened in November, but I knew that the talent level on this team was going to be really good. I expected it. I saw that coming, honestly, because you can tell talent difference from person to person. Now, do we have the Alabama talent from 2015? No. Do we have the USC talent from 2003? No. But this is still one of the most talented teams that Ole Miss has ever had, even though they took a step back from 2024. A year ago, Ole Miss could not run the ball. Everybody can remember that Ole Miss started a 5th-string wide receiver at running back against Florida in a game that would have secured them going to the playoffs. Ole Miss running the ball a year ago was disgusting. This year, they went out and got Kewan Lacey, transfer from Missouri. He is somebody that Ole Miss recruited during the recruiting process, and Ole Miss loved him. And you can see why. He's a really good running back. The first year where he was the main guy, he ended up running for 1,300 yards or something like that, plus whatever he's going to get in the college football playoff. Kewan Lacey has been a stabilizing force, so much so that if he was on last year's team, Ole Miss probably makes the playoffs. Just is what it is. But this year, this was such a weapon running the ball, especially in the red zone, especially with short yardage. If you need a yard, you can hand them the ball and you're going to be all right. Kewan Lacey is a major piece and has improved a great deal coming into this second Tulane rematch. And he is going to be a major cog that you need to look for. The other player is Trinidad Chambliss. He's the quarterback. Everybody knows you need to look at the quarterback. It's always the quarterback. We are living in a quarterback-driven world at the moment. Trinidad Chambliss has to play well for Ole Miss to do well. I think Ole Miss needs to be +3 or -3 to endanger this game. So it's going to be on Trinidad Chambliss to not turn the football over. Remember, I talked in the early part, Tulane is opportunistic. And if you turn the ball over, which they did against North Texas had 5 turnovers. All of a sudden, Tulane was able to kind of boa constrict North Texas a little bit. But Tulane's not dealing with North Texas this weekend. They're dealing with Ole Miss, playing at Ole Miss. So we'll see what happens. Now, the last player is Suntan Perkins. When you're playing a mobile quarterback, a pass rush, you want to speed him up as much as humanly possible. I do think in this game, there's a couple of times where Jake Retzlaff is going to get loose. He just is. But I think it will be important for Ole Miss to play like they have since the Oklahoma game and not revert back to what they did before the Georgia game. The drop 8, the rush 3. I think it's going to be important that you take away the run game and force them to beat you in the air. If you can do that, you're going to be all right. Retzlaff is a good passer. He can be an elite passer if you look at the first half against Memphis, but you want the ball to be resting on his right arm as opposed to the running game, because if it's the running game, they can slow the game down. They can take possessions away from your offense. They can shorten it. All of that stuff gives them a better chance to win the game. It's going to be imperative on the front 7 of Ole Miss to kind of lock down that run game. Those are 3 main players that you need to watch. And I get it. Most of the time, the quarterback's always on the list. Lacey is amazing. He's going to be there. And then it's just a different defensive pass rusher, a different defensive key that you need to look out for. And so we'll see exactly how that goes. In our final segment, we're going to dive into the picks and props that have our attention going into this massive game. And we're going to give our thoughts on the final score. We'll talk about that next. Ever feel like your money just disappears each month? It happens fast. A few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there, and suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances. Because managing your money should not feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. Rocket Money finds subscriptions you forgot you were paying for and helps you clean them up quickly. Seeing all of your spending in one dashboard makes it easier to understand where your money is going. And I like how Rocket Money automatically builds budgets based on past spending. It kind of keeps you on track without overthinking it. Take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. This is a big, big game for Ole Miss. It's the biggest game in the history of the state of Mississippi. It is what everybody that has been an Ole Miss football fan has been waiting on, a moment just like this. Whenever you're sitting there in Shreveport, Louisiana, watching Mark Young carve up the Texas Tech Red Raiders in 1986, you were imagining this moment tomorrow. When you were looking at Sean Sykes running the trap play into the end zone to beat Alabama in 1988, you were imagining this moment. Chucky Mullins, Liberty Bowls, that Gator Bowl against Michigan, Tommy Tuberville kind of coming in and setting things back on a different direction, David Cutcliffe coming in and stabilizing everybody, Eli Manning coming in, the change in recruiting with Ed Orgeron and Frank Wilson, the arrival of Houston Nutt, Hugh Freeze taking his home state team. All of these were incrementally building up the roster and what needed to happen. The whole time was growing as a program to this very moment. I'm excited to see what could happen. I do think Ole Miss is going to win this game. Ole Miss, if you look at the lines, they're currently a 17.5-point favorite. The over-under is at 56. And Vegas thinks Ole Miss is going to win handily. And everybody, the Tulane expert that I talked to, thinks it's going to be closer than the 17, but Ole Miss is going to win the game fairly easily. Everybody, literally everybody, except for the contrarians that are hoping to say, I told you so Sunday afternoon. Ole Miss is expected to win this game. The game's in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. The field looks great. They're going completely all out for it. Trace Adkins, helicopter flyover, the uniforms being classic uniforms, potentially. Amazing setup for Ole Miss. Could they throw a curveball? I don't know. But that is the way it is all set up for Ole Miss with the line that they have. I think Ole Miss is going to win the game 38-24. I do think Tulane is going to score a little bit more. And the reason I say that is Ole Miss might have won 45-10, but there were several plays inside the Ole Miss half of the field that was fourth down that Tulane went for they didn't get. I think that the slot machine is going to be in their favor. I know I get the house always wins, but eventually somebody is going to do something. So I think Tulane's going to score a little bit more points in this game. I don't know if it's going to be 38-17 to go to 38-24, or if it's going to be 31-24 that Ole Miss gets a touchdown to 38-24. I haven't figured that out yet, but I do think Ole Miss is going to win this game by multiple scores. And if you look at the other playoff games, starting tonight, you have Alabama and Oklahoma. That line's been bouncing back and forth. I mean, depending on when you look at it, either Oklahoma or Alabama is about 1.5 favorite. Ole Miss is favored by 17 over Tulane. Texas A&M's favored by 3.5 over Miami. And Oregon's favored by 21.5 over James Madison. This is pretty standard boilerplate stuff. But it's going to be big. One of those players, like which player that's in the Ulysses Bentley doghouse is going to show out and show up in the playoffs, that all of a sudden we're going to see them again because they're no longer in the doghouse. I think Kewan Lacey is going to rush for a couple of touchdowns because in the red zone, he is a weapon. I think Trinidad Chambliss is not going to run for 100 yards again, but it might be closer to 50. And I think he's going to throw the ball pretty effectively. This could be a big game for Deshaun Stribling and Deuce Alexander and Harrison Wallace and all of those guys. The Tulane pass defense being ranked number 122 in the country as far as passing yards, that's a problem for people. So we'll see what happens there. Ole Miss has to take care of the ball. No turnovers, no penalties, no stupid going for it on fourth down. Kick field goals. It'll work for you in this game. If you play smart, you're going to win this game going away. But I don't think it'll be a 45-10 again. I do think 38-24 is the way it is going to go. Anyway, thanks for tuning in today for the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We'll continue to talk about Ole Miss and Tulane in the pregame show tomorrow that we're doing from Beef O'Brady's in Tampa, Florida. Address is in my Twitter profile. It's pinned. If you want to stop by and do that, we're going to do the pregame show. We're going to do the postgame show from that location and hang out with Ole Miss fans all during the day. They're going to have drink specials. They are going to blow this out as an Ole Miss watch party, even all the way down in Tampa, Florida. They were nice enough to invite me. I was happy to accept that as well. We're on all the social channels as well, so check that out. And also, did Locked On Ole Miss make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our National Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we will drop you the code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and get exclusive access to members-only Discord. For those of you on video, we're going to send you the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel, and on audio, make sure you check out a second listen with either Locked On College Football or Locked On SEC. Hotty toddy, everybody. We are in pregame mode. The biggest college football game in Mississippi history, about a day away. Hotty toddy, everybody.